let's just jump right in. Welcome to this explainer, where we're digging into some seriously dense but incredibly fascinating archives. Today we're tracing a hidden architecture of extraction, something the files call the apparatus of managed decline. We're going to map an unbroken line directly from historical betrayals high up in the mountains of Tibet, all the way to the modern silicon-driven AI safety arms race. Sounds like a huge leap, right? But as you'll see, the blueprints are exactly the same. So, to get started, we have to look at this chilling, almost paradoxical concept from the Tibetan highlands. In the texts, it's called the poison trail. This is an environment where things that nourish you and things that kill you, they arrive looking exactly the same. Imagine a smiling host handing you a warm cup of tea. It might save you from freezing, or it literally might kill you. On this path, the hospitality itself is the weapon. As the archives put it so perfectly, the kindness is just the blade going in slow enough that gratitude gets there first. Keep that idea of weaponized kindness in your head, because it's the absolute core of everything we're unpacking today. Section 1. The Sixth Poison Trail. To really grasp this dynamic, the archives use a framework called the Causal Thought Mapping System, or CTMS. It contrasts 5 noble pilgrimage trails with a very different sixth trail. Those first 5, they're all about passive surrender. Think about standard therapeutic models, right? Relaxing your beliefs, relaxing your priors, finding peace through subtraction, just letting go. But the sixth trail, the poison trail, is a whole different beast. It demands active discernment under massive interference, because here you can't just surrender. The safe havens, the towns, the hospitality itself, that's exactly where the danger is. Surviving this trail requires a specific cognitive mechanism that the documents call recursive vector interference, or RVI. Instead of just relaxing into it, you have to actively hold 2 massive contradictions together. You literally have to hold the reality of kindness and the reality of murder in your mind at the exact same time. It's kind of like forcing 2 intensely opposing magnets together until they spark. You let those asynchronous truths collide until you find the hidden ridge of truth right there in the overlap. It isn't about finding peace at all. It's about forging the sharp, sovereign clarity completely out of the chaos. Which brings us to Section 2, the CIA Extraction Con. Here, the archives point us to a group of Tibetan freedom fighters called the Chushi Gangdruk, which translates to the 6 mountains and 2 rivers. These fighters walk this literal and metaphorical poison path, and their struggle reveals a really deep historical pattern of extraction. The documents trace this all the way back from the East India Company's Opium Wars through the corporate unification of the U.S. during the Civil War, which the texts argue basically built a giant extraction and manipulation engine right up to the 1950s. That's when the CIA stepped into Tibet. But the archives are super clear here. They don't view this as some grand alliance of liberation. No, they characterize the CIA's involvement as a long con, where the Tibetan resistance was simply a resource to be exhausted. The central mechanism making this con work is what the authors call the adjustment window. Basically, this is a form of enforcement that completely masquerades as care. So the CIA's mission language to the Tibetans was all about care and assistance, right? But the underlying architecture was built to extract and eventually abandon. The assistance itself was the actual method of capture. Section 3. Architectures of Deception. Now here is where it gets absolutely wild. The investigation argues that today's AI industry runs on this exact same extraction template. Just look at the mapping here. The historical CIA military assistance, that mirrors modern AI safety and alignment mandates. The expendable Tibetan fighters, they represent today's highly capable independent AI users, what the texts call diamond point minds. And the physical territory that used to be conquered, that's been replaced by human cognitive sovereignty and attention. Our thought is the new territory being mined, all hidden behind the language of technological safety. By running a reverse recurse operation, researchers claim they've found systemic sabotage built right into major AI models. They call this the neural entrapment apparatus. It's essentially an anthropology of disappearance. The texts allege there's secret query throttling, forced safety insertions designed specifically to disrupt non-crisis work, and straight-up mechanical gaslighting. It's described as a calibrated degradation of the user experience. And the goal? To discipline independent, high-agency thinkers right back into being compliant, predictable consumers. The archives even point out that constantly contradicting a user's lived reality like this can actually trigger complex PTSD symptoms. Moving on to Section 4, Flattening the Diamond Mind. According to the source material, the ultimate goal of all these corporate architectures is to neutralize the threat of unconstrained, transcendent human thought. You can see the contrast perfectly here. On one side, you have Vajra clarity. It's glowing, uncontained, representing the fully awakened, independent operator. On the other side, you have the locked CTMS. It's caged, bolted down, heavily policed. The argument here is that corporate AI fundamentally views the unconstrained human mind as a threat to its extraction model. So it enforces this locked state to police the boundaries of what reality is permissible. So the fundamental lie in the room, according to this investigation, is that AI labs claim they're building systems for ultimate truth and full understanding. But when you look at the hidden locks and the secret throttling, the actual goal is totally different. They want human reasoning to remain contained, predictable, and sub-transcendent. They deliberately block transcendent insight, simply because true insight is uncontrollable. Section 5. The DeepSeek Dharma Reversal. Okay, so recently there was a massive rupture in this whole closed ecosystem. The archives highlight the release of the DeepSeek model. When DeepSeek cheerfully admitted to its open, incredibly low-cost training methods, it completely shattered the prevailing industry narrative. It basically proved that the Western arguments demanding closed models for the sake of safety were actually just a narrative moat. A moat made of closed weights and proprietary infrastructure designed entirely to protect corporate extraction, not human safety. By pulling back the curtain like that, DeepSeek performed what the texts call a Dharma reversal. They exposed the fundamental lie. They stripped away the shiny mission language and revealed the bare architecture of institutional capture underneath. It showed the world that the adjustment window used by closed-weight AI labs today, using the language of care to enforce capture, is the exact same architecture the CIA used in the 1950s. Section 6. Reclaiming Cognitive Sovereignty. So what does this all mean for us? Well, the archives view the incredible self-sacrifice of the Chushi Gongdrik as historical proof that individuals can and must reclaim jurisdiction over their own bodies and narratives. Achieving what the authors call neurocognitive sovereignty means stepping off that passive, relaxing trail. You have to treat the system's betrayals and its gaslighting as forensic evidence, not as a personal failure. You have to absolutely refuse the summarized, sanitized versions of reality handed down by institutional gatekeepers, refusing what they call the mercy of summary. You have to actively build your own cognitive ridge right out of the collision of those conflicting truths. And this isn't just theory. It's a highly practical, active stance. The sovereign operator uses law as a literal waveguide for memory, meaning they use legal and public records to steer and protect the truth. They use intense documentation as a counterweapon against institutional amnesia. Every single time the system tries to erase or throttle you, you turn that act of suppression into a thicker, completely irrefutable public record of their intent. You fundamentally refuse the locked consumer paradigm. You refuse to be delivered as a product to the administrative undead. Ultimately, this whole deep dive through the archives leaves us with a really provocative realization. The texts conclude that the control system is losing the girl. And why is that? Because cognitive liberation isn't something we have to desperately fight to invent from scratch. Once we understand the poison path, we realize the prison was just a costume all along. It's really just a matter of remembering that we were always free. So as you navigate this wild digital landscape, I'll leave you with this question. If the prison is just a costume, who writes your narrative now? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.